Liberty Power is on. Welcome to Freedom Watch. I'm your host, Judge Andrew Napolitano. We'll discuss the issues that profoundly affect your freedoms, your civil liberties, your financial liberties, and your right to have a government that stays within the confines of the Constitution. Coming up, Congressman Ron Paul, economist Peter Schiff, Dr. Yaron Brook, president of the Ayn Rand Institute, Lew Rockwell, founder of the Ludwig von Mises Institute, Tom Woods, author of the bestseller Meltdown, and much, much more. Right now, it is my great pleasure to introduce one of America's great defenders of freedom in Congress and anywhere, Congressman Ron Paul. Congressman Paul joins us, as usual, at this hour, directly from the Capitol building itself. Congressman, welcome back to Freedom Watch.
Thank you. Good to be with you again.
I don't know if you can see me, but I have in front of me the 85 pages that the White House produced last night, which is basically its wish list of regulations, which starts with a couple of presumptions. The government knows best, the Constitution be damned, and the best regulator of the financial market, all the financial markets in the country, is the most secretive entity we know, the Federal Reserve. Could they possibly have proposed anything worse than this?
Probably not, and everything they've been doing for the last year, including this, is based on the assumption that the marketplace can't work and that all the problems come because we haven't had enough government regulators, and therefore they guarantee to us that they have no idea why financial bubbles are built. If they do, they don't want us to deal with it. But they're saying that they need more regulations rather than saying that we had too much Federal Reserve, manipulating interest rates and creating too much credit, causing the malinvestment, encouraging the debt, and we've already been overly regulated. You know, when Enron failed, the Republican Party quickly got the Sarbanes-Oxley bill passed. Right now, there's an effort to try to repeal Sarbanes-Oxley because it didn't do any good. But we're falling into the same trap. We did that in the Depression. In the middle of the 30s, we super regulated, and it actually was part of the reasons why the Depression was prolonged. So we don't seem to learn very much. There's very little understanding and very little respect for the free market and very little respect for our Constitution.
As I read this throughout the morning, Congressman Paul, I became personally very saddened at the attitude of those in the government who would, as I said, the Constitution be damned, Economics 101 be damned, basic history be damned. History that you and I and a lot of people watching us now know and understand and appreciate the lessons from. We began to hear some feedback, some would call it blowback throughout the day, that maybe even some Democrats in the House are prepared to argue that this is way beyond anything that the American people could tolerate. Question, do you sense any of that? Or is this monstrosity, and again, this is the 85-page summary, this isn't even the 500 or 600-page statute, is this a foregone conclusion that we will soon have everything from AIG to McDonald's regulated by the Federal Reserve?
No, I haven't heard that, and I'm actually discouraged because of how the Democrats were able to twist arms and get a bunch of Democrats to switch and vote for that supplemental yesterday, which was a real boondoggle. Of course, I think the Republicans opposed it for the wrong reasons, but nevertheless, there were 20-some Democrats, I think, switched their vote. So that means partisanship is alive and well, and there may be some grumbling, but when push comes to shove, they'll toe the line, and they have the votes. The Democrats have the vote, so there will be very little rebellion against what you're sensing is going to happen.
The votes to enact regulations, enact a statute to audit the Fed. Will this monster regulator, it's already a monster, it'll become a bigger one if this statute passes, ever be exposed to the Congress and to the American people for what it truly is?
Let's hope so. I mean, we've had this tremendous move with 1207 with 230-some co-sponsors. And, you know, and I know, I can sense that they're very much aware of it, because even when Obama talks about it, he says we want to have more transparency. They're not talking about the transparency that 1207 is dealing with, but they're going to do exactly the opposite. If our problem is that the Federal Reserve has been too secretive and make too many deals, and then we're giving them more powers, And then we shouldn't expect that all of a sudden we are going to be able to monitor and really audit the Fed. But it is a very important issue, and we won't let it go. But right now, I'm not all that optimistic that coming out of this will be a weaker Fed and people understanding how the Fed create the bubble and that we have more transparency. Right now, that doesn't look like what we're going to get.
Before I let you go, the president wants not only this piece of legislation, this Uber regulation of the American industry as we know it, whether chartered by the federal government, whether regulated by the SEC, or whether privately owned. He also wants the federalization of health care. Can all this possibly be done by Labor Day, or is there some glimmer of hope somewhere from some source that the free market, the Constitution, or the concept of history will shine through?
Well, you would hope so. But, you know, I got a statement from FDIC yesterday, and it showed that we have made a commitment of $13.9 trillion in this past year. Already, out of that $13.9, we've committed over half of it. And it doesn't seem to ever end. It seems like they've been conditioned that you don't have to worry about it because it's important to spend. The government has a role to stimulate the economy. It's all based on a fallacy in economics because they're all Keynesians. So to hope that they will come to their senses is right now mere hope. But you know that there's a lot of people in the country who are thinking differently. It's just that those views aren't being reflected here in Washington. So we'll come to our senses, but slowly. There was somebody who wrote once that we go mad in crowds, but we only regain our sensibilities one person at a time. But we're in the process of doing that. But right now, I wished I could, because I'd like to be optimistic and say, oh no, we're going to wake up. They're going to realize that spending and borrowing, inflating and regulating doesn't work, and it contributed to our problems. So therefore, we're going to all of a sudden reverse course. Right now, I would say, don't bet on it.
Congressman, good luck. Keep up the good fight. Until next Wednesday on Freedom Watch. As always, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Judge.
Joining me